Retro-style beat-em-up games have made a big comeback in recent years, bringing back the classic arcade feeling of fighting through waves of enemies with fast-paced action and co-op gameplay. Scott Pilgrim EX continues that tradition while expanding the universe inspired by the cult favorite Scott Pilgrim series. But nostalgia alone isn't always enough to make a great game. So in today's review on RazorFrame, we're taking a closer look at Scott Pilgrim EX to see how it handles combat, progression, and overall gameplay, and whether it's actually worth playing. Story: Scott Pilgrim EX follows the familiar chaotic world of Scott Pilgrim and his friends, filled with over-the-top characters, strange enemies, and humorous moments. The game doesn't focus heavily on deep storytelling. Instead, it delivers a light and entertaining narrative that mainly acts as a backdrop for the action. Fans of the Scott Pilgrim universe will likely enjoy the references, characters, and overall tone that stays true to the original style. Gameplay: at its core, Scott Pilgrim EX is a classic beat-em-up game. Players move through different stages while fighting groups of enemies using punches, kicks, combos, and special attacks. As you progress, you unlock new abilities and upgrades that make your character stronger. Combat feels fast and satisfying, especially when chaining together combos against multiple enemies at once. The game also encourages experimentation with different moves and strategies during fights. Co-op mode: one of the most enjoyable parts of Scott Pilgrim EX is the co-op gameplay. The game allows players to team up with friends and fight through levels together, which makes the experience much more chaotic and entertaining. Beat-em-up games have always been at their best in multiplayer, and Scott Pilgrim EX clearly leans into that classic arcade experience. Playing with friends often leads to intense and sometimes hilarious moments during battles. Visual style: visually, Scott Pilgrim EX embraces a retro pixel art style that perfectly fits the arcade-inspired gameplay. Characters, environments, and animations all follow a colorful and energetic design that captures the spirit of the Scott Pilgrim universe. The pixel art is detailed and expressive, giving the game a nostalgic feel while still looking modern and polished. Sound and music: the soundtrack also plays a big role in the overall atmosphere. Fast and energetic music keeps the action moving during fights and matches the chaotic tone of the game. Combined with classic arcade-style sound effects, the audio design helps recreate the feeling of playing an old-school arcade beat-em-up. Downsides: despite its strengths, Scott Pilgrim EX isn't perfect. Some levels can feel repetitive since the core gameplay loop mainly revolves around fighting waves of enemies. Players who are not fans of classic beat-em-up games might also find the mechanics somewhat simple compared to modern action games. However, these elements are also part of what defines the genre. Final verdict: Scott Pilgrim EX delivers a fun and energetic beat-em-up experience that focuses on fast combat, colorful visuals, and chaotic co-op gameplay. While it doesn't completely reinvent the genre, it successfully captures the spirit of classic arcade brawlers and adds its own personality through the Scott Pilgrim universe. For fans of retro, beat-em-up games and co-op action, Scott Pilgrim EX is definitely worth checking out. And for more game reviews and new releases, keep following RazorFrame.